Hey Jedi, so we're talking about Cuba, and let me just play a little clip from your video to make sure I don't misquote you.
But anyway, people that are communists, they like to talk about Cuba. I mean, this is not one of those things where they're like, oh, that's not the same thing. I mean, it's not something they're going to run from. It's not something they're going to try to convince you is totally different than what they want.
Yes, absolutely. Out of all the communist experiments, Cuba is the one that didn't turn out too bad. Normally with communism, you get a fairly excessive body count, but Cuba turned out okay. So communists will cite Cuba, and socialists will cite Sweden as their examples. You have some stats and some articles. I took a look at a few. It's tricky though, precisely because this is the poster child. You're going to get a lot of favourable articles, and I'm not sure what you can get from articles anyway, and stats can be manipulated. I was actually over there a few years back, and it's certainly not somewhere I would like to live. And I kind of wish that the US government would lift the travel restrictions, because I believe if Americans saw it for themselves, it would be clear to them that it's not somewhere that they'd want to live. The houses are falling apart. The government allocates you the house. You can't sell it, so it's not really your house. The cars are ancient. They keep repairing them, but they don't make new ones. And the reason that they can't build new ones is that the government doesn't let people start businesses. You can let out a couple of rooms in your house, or you can serve food, but that's it. So unsurprisingly, no business development, no innovation, nothing worthwhile going on. And that's why Cuba's poor. Not because of the embargo. You don't need international trade to generate wealth. You can develop your internal market. So, some political philosophies insist on it. Nationalism strives for self-sufficiency. International trade only comes into play if you have a reasonably developed economy. By and large, Cuba doesn't. You need to sell stuff on the international markets that people want to import. So the embargo has nothing to do with anything. They could manufacture their own cars, bricks to fix their houses. There's a lot of houses that need fixing. They could have a whole DIY range. But of course, that can't happen because they are not allowed to start businesses. And that's basically why they're poor. The way it works is you get allocated a job. I'll tell you, go work in the cigar factory to earn some very minimal wage. I was on some tour of a cigar factory over there, and some guy, one of the tourists, just went up and asked to work. He said, "How much do you earn a week?" And the tour guide just went nuts. He said, "If you ask them that question again, this tour's over, or we're kicking you all out." So yeah, if you ask a young person over there, what do you want to do with your life, they'll just say Florida. That's where they want to go to, America. But of course they're not allowed to because the government doesn't let them leave. What a great place. Now there is economic activity, so the government and the army own businesses. At the moment there's a lot of development going on in tourism, lots of hotels going up. And the hotel I was staying in, there weren't a lot of business people there, and I talked to some of them, and they were putting up hotels. So there's money being made, but not by the Cubans. This one time, I'm on the beach, and it's the hotel's beach. There's security at both ends. The local people are not allowed on it. And I'm sitting there drinking my beer, and some very old men walk down the beach, local men, with security guards, obviously to make sure they don't bother us. So I say to the barman, "What's going on?" And he says, "Well, they fought in the revolution. Technically, everyone in Cuba can go on any beach, and they're keeping that idea alive." Which I thought was absolutely hilarious, because clearly only Westerners were allowed on this beach, and these guys had a ton of security people around them just because they had the audacity to walk on our beach. And that's what communism does to its citizens. It turns them into a joke. It creates the situation where a foreigner is worth 10 times the citizen. And another time, I met this German tourist. He must have been 50 to 60 years old. And we're chatting. He seemed okay. And then he said, "Oh, what are you guys here for?" I said, "Oh, I just wanted to check the place out." I said, "What are you here for?" And he said, "Oh, xxxx." So, yeah. I think that's probably enough stories. Yeah, clearly I don't think it's a nice place to live. It's not somewhere I'd want to live. Okay, so up to this point, I guess I've been assuming that you have a picture in your head of what Cuba is like, and I have a picture in my head, and they're different. And I'm trying to convince you that you're wrong, that the picture in your head doesn't accurately reflect Cuba. But hey, maybe it does. Maybe we have the same picture in our heads. Maybe you know all this, you know what it's like, and that is the kind of society that you think is worthwhile. Maybe you think it's good. Like you said, communists don't see this state as a failure. And if that's the case, I don't know, I guess we have very different value systems. There are going to be things that you consider good that I consider bad, and vice versa. I don't think the majority of Westerners would ever buy into this kind of society. So for all you communists out there, yeah, I guess you're right to be revolutionaries, because people aren't going to go for this voluntarily. What you guys should do is buy into my vision of people setting up their own little states, because I'm totally fine with you guys screwing up your own lives. Just don't take me with you. You guys can have your piece of land in Idaho next to the white nationalists, and you can set up your Cuban style society. I have no problems with communism as long as I'm not subject to it. Have a good one.